With that, I think we're ready to go into opening statements, and Mr. Newman can begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, members of the jury. On the morning of Monday, September 30th, 2024, two young men's lives were cut short. By the time the sun rose over Warren that morning, Cedric Hayden Jr. was dead. His friend DeJuan Pettis, who was riding in a vehicle with him, was also dead from catastrophic injuries. Their families would receive the phone call every parent, every sibling, every loved one fears. This case is about how that happened. The defendant in this case, as you've heard, James Burke, is charged with 4 counts. Count 1, manslaughter, which pertains to Cedric Hayden Jr. Count 2, manslaughter, which pertains to DeJuan Pettis. Moving violation causing serious injury, which applies to the defendant, Officer Burke's partner, Officer Rodolfo. And count 4, public officer, willful neglect of duty. The evidence will show that just before 5 o'clock in the morning, a police dispatcher broadcast information out over the dispatch system through the officer's vehicle about a stolen vehicle that had been detected by what's known as a flock camera system. And through this trial, you will learn all about that system and how it works. This particular vehicle that came up as reported stolen was not known to be involved in any particular violent crime at that point, you will hear. There was no report of gunfire, there was no report of a kidnapping, there was no report of anyone's life being in immediate danger at the time that this case occurred. Evidence will show that the defendant, James Burke, a Warren police officer, sworn to protect the public, was behind the wheel of a fully marked police SUV with his partner, Officer Rodolfo, seated beside him as they were patrolling that morning in Warren. They were on duty, patrolling their area of the city of Warren. You will hear what happened next only took a matter of minutes. But those minutes changed lives forever. In this case, you will see video evidence. You will hear dispatch recordings. You will hear testimony from police officers who responded to the scene. You will hear testimony from experts with the Macomb County Sheriff's Office who came and investigated the crash and did what's known as an accident reconstruction. And together, they will paint a picture that is both clear and tragic. Evidence will show that the defendant, upon receiving these flock hits reporting a stolen vehicle in the area, accelerated down the city streets at speeds exceeding over 100 miles per hour. You will hear testimony that the speed limit on Schoenherr Road, where this crash occurred, was only 40 miles per hour. You will hear testimony that the defendant's patrol vehicle reached speeds as high as 114 miles per hour just seconds before impact. And you will hear evidence that throughout the defendant, Officer Burke's frantic search for this stolen vehicle, the defendant never activated his emergency lights. He never activated his siren. No flashing lights. No warning siren. Nothing to alert people sharing that roadway that morning to the danger that was approaching. The evidence will show that Cedric Hayden Jr. was driving northbound on Schoenherr Road with his friend DeJuan Pettis in the passenger seat. They had no reason to expect that a marked police SUV was racing towards them at greater than highway speeds through the city of Warren down Schoenherr Road. The evidence will show that as Cedric attempted to make a left turn onto Prospect Street, the defendant's patrol vehicle slammed into the passenger side of the Durango. And you will hear about that turn and the defendant's driving through the accident reconstruction experts in this case. You will hear, ladies and gentlemen, that that impact occurred at approximately 93 miles per hour. The defendant, at the last second, hit the brakes and was able to get his vehicle down to 93 miles per hour. You will hear and see for yourself the force was so violent that the Durango was launched into the air. It rolled multiple times before crashing to the ground on its side. Ladies and gentlemen, you will hear from first responders who arrived and found the devastation at the scene. You will hear how officers pulled the occupants of the Durango, Cedric and DeJuan, from the wreckage through the moonroof of the vehicle. The vehicle was on its driver's side at the time. You will hear about their efforts to try and save lives. CPR was performed on DeJuan and Cedric by the side of the road there. But ultimately, there were 2 deaths. You will hear evidence from the medical examiners who conducted autopsies on the 2 individuals, Cedric and DeJuan. The medical examiner will explain that both Cedric Hayden Jr. and DeJuan Pettis died from devastating blunt force injuries caused by the crash. It will tell you that the severity of those injuries was directly related to the speed in this collision. The tragedy did not stop there. The defendant's own partner, Officer Rodolfo, suffered devastating injuries as well. You will hear that he sustained a broken femur, a broken ankle, fractures to his femoral neck, 10 broken ribs, a broken arm, and was concussed and unconscious for a period of time. 3 lives shattered in an instant, 2 men dead, 1 officer permanently changed. Evidence will show all of it occurring in the darkness of the early morning while the defendant was driving way over double, nearly triple the speed limit with 0 warning to oncoming drivers. You will see video from the defendant's vehicle, from the in-car camera of that vehicle, and you will see what the defendant was seeing, what he was looking at as he sped down Schoenherr Road. The evidence will show that Michigan law, and you will hear about the law, and the judge will instruct you on the law, but that the Michigan law places responsibilities on police officers who operate emergency vehicles. You will hear about those laws. You will hear about what those rules required and what the defendant chose to do instead. This case is not about holding police officers to a higher standard than everyone else. It's about holding them to the standard under the law. The judge has given you some of that law. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, a badge does not authorize gross negligence and recklessness. A badge does not excuse conduct that places innocent lives at extreme risk. And a badge does not place anyone above the law. At the conclusion of this trial, after you have seen the videos, heard the testimony, and examined the evidence, the people will ask you to find the defendant's conduct was criminal. And the evidence proves each of the 4 charges beyond a reasonable doubt. We will ask you to find and return verdicts of guilty on all 4 counts. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate your attention. This is a tragic story. It is. 2 people died, and we can't take that back. The question before you today is who's responsible for that? Who's responsible for those deaths and for the injuries that occurred? This is a case about a police officer, an officer who is sworn to go out and protect the citizens of this community, specifically the citizens of Warren. An officer with 8 years experience, a Macomb County Sheriff's deputy, then a Warren officer. An officer who's been trained, been through the police academy, taught how to drive, instructed on how to drive a vehicle, an emergency police vehicle. This isn't the regular Explorer. This isn't a regular car that you would buy off the car lot. You will hear evidence that this is a car that is designed to be able to handle at speeds. You will hear that Officer Burke was trained in how to handle that vehicle. My anticipation will hear that the best driver on his shift was Officer Burke. You will hear that Officer Rodolfo chose and was Officer Burke's partner for 2 years because he knew that Officer Burke was the best driver and wanted to be in the car with the best driver on his shift. That day, on September 29th, Officer Burke reported to duty at 7:30 p.m. Briefing was at 8. Puts on his uniform, puts on his badge, puts on everything he does on a daily basis when he goes out to serve and protect the public. To do his job, to do what we ask him to do, what we hire him to do, to stop the bad people while we sleep, to make sure that we are safe in our homes. Officer Burke goes to a briefing, and you will hear testimony from officers that at that briefing they were informed that there has been and there was ongoing breaking and enterings where ATM thefts were being taken, where it was happening in a specific area, which happened to be Officer Burke, Officer Rodolfo's, and the rest of his shift's patrol area. That was happening between the hours of 3 and 5 a.m., early morning hours. Not many people out, not many people driving around, and most people sleeping. These officers are on the night shift. They know that area. There are districts assigned to them. They understand it's like you being at home. Last night, if you had to get up in the middle of the night, you knew where your bed was. You knew where your hamper was. You knew how to get to the bathroom without having to think about it. That's how well these officers know their jurisdiction. They know which stores are open. They know which stores are closed. They know where the traffic's coming from. They know what traffic's heavy, when it's not heavy, when it's clear. They have that experience. At the briefing also, they learn that the Durango that was involved in these other ones was found wrecked in Detroit. They then learned that there's a crew that is operating commonly uses stolen vehicles. Chrysler products, Jeeps, Durangos. Specifically, they learned that they believe that these vehicles might be used and these are happening. They're also told that these individuals are armed, that they should use extreme caution. So as an officers, what do they find? That these people are dangerous, and they are in the community, committing these breaking and enterings. They do their regular shift. They're driving, taking their calls, doing everything that they normally do. And at 4:56, there's a flock hit. A flock hit is a license plate reader It reads every license plate that goes by it. It notifies them that there is a stolen Jeep, one that has been stolen out of Sterling Heights, that is known to have weapons in it at the time it was stolen, and that it is in their area, their district, the exact area that they have been briefed on that these B&Es are happening, the exact time frame that they're told that these individuals are operating during, between 3 and 5 a.m. This is at 4:56. You will hear that it's not just dispatch that puts out this information. Also, they have an in-car computer that they use. And on that computer, Mike, it pops up. No matter what's on their screen that they're looking at, the flock hit will pop up. It shows a picture of the license plate, and it shows a picture of the rear taillights of the vehicle. It shows the back. So now they confirm that this is that vehicle. It is the stolen black Jeep Cherokee, and the information also tells them that it is one that was stolen out of Sterling Heights and that it was to have weapons inside of it. Everything is starting to match up. So what do? They start heading in that area. Officer Rodolfo is working the computer. You will hear him tell you the reason he works the computer and doesn't drive is because he's really good at the computer. He's a whiz with it. And Officer Burke is the better driver. So they're putting their skills to use. As they're driving there, you'll see from the cameras, from the dash cams, is that they start to head in the direction of the flock hit. They even know the direction that it's going, and they start speeding up. They're in an area where, as the direction of the driver or this vehicle is going, they could very quickly be into Detroit. As many of us know from the area, 8 Mile is the border for Warren and Detroit. So they need to try to get there to stop this vehicle before it gets into Detroit. When they're responding, they go. You will hear from officers that they are trained. They are taught in their FTO status. When you're trying to pull someone over or respond to a serious crime, do not activate your lights. Do not activate your siren. Why? Common sense. If you activate your lights and your sirens, you're letting everybody in the area know that you're here, this is who I am. What's a criminal or a suspect going to do at that point? If you're a mile back from them, they're going to drive off, they're going to take off, you're not going to be able to apprehend that suspect. You will hear officers tell you that that's what they're trained to do. Common sense again. Officers, traffic stops, get behind a car, activate their lights. They don't, whenever they're going someplace or trying to catch up with somebody, don't activate their lights. The time of day is important to consider also. It's 4:56 in the morning. There's light traffic. They're mostly 4-lane roads. Officer Burke is well aware of what's going on, well aware of his community, well aware of the traffic, knows where every stoplight and every stop sign is in that town, in that area, in his district. As they're proceeding to the intersection, trying to catch up to the flock hit, they get another flock hit that demonstrates that the vehicle is still moving, it's still going in the direction they think it's going in, and they get to the intersection and they stop and they slow down and they look to see if they can see the vehicle. You will hear them testify, or you hear testimony, that these officers, because they routinely work night shift and mostly only work night shift, that in their experience they're able to identify vehicles based on taillights. Most vehicles have different types of taillights that you can look at and say, I know that that's a Jeep, I know that that's a Dodge, I know that that's a 300, I know what vehicle that is from looking at it. Experience matters here. They have that experience. They don't see the vehicle, they turn around, they try to head north back towards where they think the flock hit was. They're talking. Rodolfo and Officer Burke are talking, as partners should, communicating. They turn around and start looking for, and turn around, and then they both spot the vehicle. They see the vehicle down the road, they recognize the taillights of the vehicle that was in the flock hit. Let's back up for a second. The big issue here is speed. That's what the prosecutor is going to have you focus on, is the speed. That the speed was unreasonable, that it was out of hand, that it was way too fast given what was happening. This is where I ask you to look at the totality of the circumstances. The time of day, the weather, the road conditions, the amount of traffic on the road, the totality of what Officer Burke knew at the time that this was happening. I ask that you watch the video of Officer Burke's dash cam. See how light the traffic was. Even count the cars that he passes. Watch his driving as far as how he acts. He is not acting in a reckless, dangerous, grossly negligent manner, flying around without paying attention to what's happening. He slows down and stops and clears red lights. He speeds up when he knows that there's light traffic and it's a clear road. You will see him move over when he sees oncoming traffic coming. Everything he's doing is demonstrating that he is operating his vehicle in a safe manner, that he understands that the urgency of the matter, understands the urgency to find this vehicle, but also isn't going to put unnecessary risk to himself or to the public at that point in time. And no, he still has not activated his emergency lights because he still hasn't caught up to the suspect. You'll also hear testimony, I anticipate, from the other officers that were on shift, that when that flock hit came out, they all started to converge on it because they all understood the importance of this Jeep being in that area at this time. This isn't just Officer Burke and Officer Rodolfo deciding that they're going to go and try to be the badass cops and take this person down on their own. The entire shift, even the sergeant that was in the department, comes out to come out and help catch this vehicle. That's the importance that they put on it, the importance that they put on protecting this community, to stopping these individuals. As they make the turn, you will see that they start heading down Schoenherr. Schoenherr's a 4-lane road, wide open. They spot the vehicle. Now what's their policy? What's their procedure? What do they need to do? We need to catch up to that vehicle. We need to make sure everybody else is getting into position before, and the term we use that's used in law enforcement is before we light it up. Because if I'm a half a mile away from a vehicle and I turn on the lights and I have partners converging, now we don't have them in the units in position and we're not converged. Officer Burke sees the vehicle, speeds up, starts speeding up, knows the area, knows that there is no stoplights, no stop signs, 4-lane road going up to catch up to this vehicle. He accelerates. There is no question that he accelerates. There is no question that he is driving at the speeds the prosecutor says. We're not refuting that. We're not refuting that an accident happened. The question is why did it happen? As Officer Burke is driving, there's no vehicles between him and where this collision happens. This vehicle that he sees is coming. You'll see it on the video. You can see the headlights. This vehicle is coming towards him. There is no indication that this vehicle is going to do anything but travel straight past him. On the video, Officer Burke actually moves over to the middle of the roadway as he's trained, as he does, that in case there's an issue, he can try to make a maneuver. Exercising care and caution, not grossly negligent. As he's approaching, all of a sudden, unexpectedly, without warning, a Dodge Durango with no turn signal, with a driver who is suspended, with a driver who is a .198 blood alcohol level, abruptly and unexpectedly turns in front of the cruiser. Officer Burke applies the brakes as hard as he can, tries to avoid the collision, but unfortunately, he cannot. And both vehicles collide. Unfortunately, Mr. Hayden and Mr. Pettis passed away from the collision. The turn that was made by Mr. Hayden was an illegal turn. He attempted to cut and beat the car that he perceived coming and cut into this intersection to the point that he even would, if there would have been a car on Prospect Avenue coming out onto Schoenherr, he would have hit that car head on. That's how severe he's cutting this line. You will hear from the prosecutor's own expert that this was an illegal turn, that it was illegal. The turn was illegal. You will hear from a toxicologist expert who will tell you that an individual at a 0.198 blood alcohol level does not have the same audio receptors, visual ability, the same ability as a sober person driving a vehicle to comprehend a vehicle coming towards him, as a sober person would be able to judge a speed of a vehicle. Cedric Hayden was operating his vehicle in a grossly negligent manner. He's a 0.198 blood alcohol level, suspended driver's license, out on the road, disobeying the law. He caused this accident. He is responsible for the injuries to Officer Rodolfo and the death of Mr. Pettis. Officer Burke himself was injured in the accident. I anticipate that you're going to see body cam video of the scene after it takes place. I ask again that you pay attention. Officer Burke injured himself, gets out of his vehicle, checks on his partner, then gets out of his vehicle and goes and attempts to render aid to the two individuals in the Dodge Durango. While he's suffering a concussion, lacerations, soft tissue damage, he himself is injured. We anticipate that you'll even hear from the officers on the scene who have known Officer Burke for years saying, it wasn't they call him Jimmy, it wasn't James that we were talking to at that time. He was concussed. He has no memory of the accident past when the accident happens. The prosecutor wants to argue to you that just because of his speed that he was grossly negligent. If you find that Mr. Hayden was grossly negligent or believe that he helped or he was a contributor to this accident, then Officer Burke is not guilty. The prosecutor stood up here before you and said during voir dire that drunk driving, being intoxicated on the road, is not a crime.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I still object.
Okay, please rephrase that.
It's not argument.
Drunk driving is a crime. Drunk driving and putting other people on the road in danger is being grossly negligent. An officer who is operating his vehicle the way he was trained, the way that he was taught, that every other officer would tell you is the same way that they would have operated their vehicle, is not grossly negligent. If you don't believe that Officer Burke was grossly negligent, then you have to find him not guilty on the 2 counts of gross negligence and of the count in regards to Officer Rodolfo, and not guilty on willful neglect of duty. Officer Burke was doing what we ask him to do. He's doing what every one of us wants him to do, what we ourselves don't want to do. And now, this prosecutor sitting here with hindsight saying what he did was wrong. Not even acknowledging that the victim in this case who was operating that vehicle was a .198. As we talked about in voir dire, as I talk about through this trial, I ask you to pay attention to the totality of the circumstances. The totality of them. Not just 4 seconds before an accident, but everything that occurred before then. And I believe that when you do, you will find Officer Burke not guilty of all charges. Thank you.
Thank you. First witness available.
Can we just approach for a moment?
Yes.